04 RX8. Flooded. Got the charger on it. Helping crank it up. Scion over there. Head gasket. Yay. To do a deflood, you got to go down there and you got to pull the crank sensor out, which I don't usually do. What I do is I actually come over here and I go in for the 20 amp fuel pump, which is right there in front of my finger. And it's the only 20 amp in that row of blue. What I usually do is I pull it out and I crank it over, you know, with my foot off the gas, letting the spark plugs spark. Once it starts hitting, and then, you know, you hear when there's no more fuel, it slows down the cranking speed. I do that about 4 or 5 times, and once I feel pretty comfortable with all the fuel being out of the system, I put the thing back in there. Roll the window up so they don't make noise. Okay. Well, now that I'm in the car, usually the best thing to do is start cranking with your foot on the gas pedal to the floor. This only works with the first generation RX8s. The newer ones, 09, 10, whatever, you can't do it. You got to take the crank sensor plug off. But start cranking with your foot on the floor, you know, like I'm going to do. You can't see because the lighting in here sucks, but put it all the way to the floor and start cranking. And then after a few seconds, pull it off. And it starts pushing the shit out. And once it does that, you let it sit for a second, foot to the floor again, cycle the key, so it goes back to deflood, and then start cranking again. And then slowly pull your foot up. Cycle the key, foot to the floor. Yeah, it takes a few tries, but usually that's the best way to get it deflooded. If this method doesn't work, which this one's kind of on this car, another way to do it is pull the crank sensor, lift it up, take the driver wheel off, pull the leading plugs out, the lower plugs, and spin it over a couple times with the crank sensor out, because if you have the crank sensor in, you go to spin it over, the fuel that's in there is going to come out, the spark plug wires are going to spark, and it's going to cause a fire. Don't want that. So always, when you're doing a deflood and you're pulling the plugs, pull the crank sensor, disconnect it. Don't let it get signal. Once you do that, you know, spin it over a couple times, you'll see the mist of the gas and the oil mixture coming out. And you just do that a couple times, and if needed, take a little bit of oil and squirt 3 milliliters of oil into the leading plug holes, and put the plugs back in and spin it over with the crank sensor out, so you don't try and spark it. It just puts a film or a layer in there to help make sealing of the apex seals on the rotor housings. But yeah, I'm about to pull the plugs out. But yeah, like I said, you know, just pulling the plugs out on that one, it's the best bet. Go back to pulling no fuel. See, when you put your foot to the floor, it cuts fuel delivery. You'll still get spark, but it completely cuts fuel delivery for deflood purposes. And when you lift up, it's getting there. And they say 8 seconds, but I'm a Mazda tech. See, Mazda technical training. Go with about 20 with 15 in between, or 15 to 20 seconds in between, you know, because you don't want to overheat the starter. Our boost box here sucks. We can only boost it off at 40 amp versus the engine start 200 because it's broken. But yeah, just put a boost box on there, keep the battery up because they need their RPMs for cranking purposes. So foot to the floor. You'll hear it probably hit once or twice. But yeah, I'm gonna have to put it up, pull the plugs, and squirt a little oil in there to help the sealing go. Plus, this one's an automatic, which sucks ass. Another thing to do is if you disconnect the battery or you disconnect the sensor, always take the key, put it in your hand, go back, put it in the ignition, turn the key to the on, not crank. Take your foot, stomp on the brake pedal until you see the oil pressure gauge sweep, like that. Once you do that, cycle off, foot to the floor. This one's got a bad misfire, probably a bad coil. And usually when they start, they smoke really bad. Foot to the floor. The longest runtime I've gotten out of this one. Foot to the floor. Oh, it's running on its own. My foot's on the floor right now, by the way. And there we go. Deflooded. Check engine light's gonna flash for, you know, detecting a misfire when it started, but it's running. That's how you do a deflood.